Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I'm going to read a meditation here in just a second, but before I get into that, I was kind of thinking about the month of November last night, and I was thinking about how, I've seen a lot of my friends through the years practice like a month of gratitude on Facebook, where every day they'll list something. And, I've talked so much about gratitude on this channel and how much gratitude is like an action in my life and how much I've gained from it, that I thought, why don't I, put my money where my mouth is, so to speak, and start, practicing gratitude on a daily basis on this channel. So every day going forward that I do a video on this channel in the month of November, I'm going to also talk about gratitude. And I'm going to just talk about some of the things that are the most prominent pieces of gratitude that I have in my life on a regular basis. I would also encourage you maybe to do the same thing, and maybe at least during the month of November, if not every day of our lives, to really make a effort at being more grateful and making a list of things that we're grateful for, or going through it in your head at the end of the night like I do, and I do it in the morning as well. So the thing I wanted to talk about on here today is that the first two things I always say, to my higher power that I am grateful for is my life and my health. Those are always, for me, the first two things. And, I think that actually they're two things that many of us take for granted on a regular basis until we're either in life, threatening situations, or we have loved ones around us that are very, very ill, or we ourselves are very, very ill. I think we take it for granted. And, I've had several friends of mine in my life, my mother, other people that have had terminal illnesses. I've had, several of my friends and family members in my life that have had, chronic illnesses and just a lot of pain. And the fact that typically on a daily basis, I wake up and I feel pretty good and I'm able to function in life is something that I cannot take for granted. Not for 1 second. I need to be extremely grateful for that. And I also need to look at my life as a gift. And this was something that actually took a little bit of time for me to kind of, get to a point where I could say that, For a long time, I would hear people say that recovery was a gift. And I really struggled with that, because I would be like, oh, okay, well, recovery is this gift. And yeah, I get it. But then when I started hearing people in early recovery talk about, the fact that there will be some people that will never be introduced to recovery, all of a sudden, the many times that I had tried to get sober, or had faked my way to get sober, or the several treatment programs that I had gone through and whatever, they, for me, I was like, wow, like I have been given this huge gift. And today my recovery is, next to my life, the greatest gift I've ever been given. And so, right next to that, my recovery, my life, and my health are three things that are paramount in my life as far as things that I'm grateful for. I think sometimes those things, like being able to breathe, being able to walk, are things that I take for granted on a regular basis, because until, we're at a point where we're going to lose those things, we don't really realize how grateful we are for them, if that makes sense. So those are some things that I really try to be grateful for on a daily basis, to not just to be grateful for, but to remind myself of how blessed I am, to be able to have those things in my life. And when we're going through really hard times, I think that life, to be as a gift, doesn't always seem like such a gift, right? Like when we're going through really tough times, it's like, yeah, this doesn't seem like such a gift to me. But I always have to remember that at any moment in my life that I'm going through something really horrible, there is somebody that is fighting for just one more day to live. And I can't take that for granted. I have to remember that, And I have to remember that this life that I've been given is truly, truly a gift. So every day this month, I'm going to talk about one thing that I'm like especially grateful for on this channel, or every day that I do a video on this channel, I'm going to do that. And I just wanted to kind of put those things out there. Let me know in the comment section below some things that you're really grateful for. I think it would be really cool to see kind of an interchange go on between the comment sections. Be nice to each other, all that kind of stuff. But to see kind of an interchange of gratitude, if that makes sense. And I think, in talking about YouTube and YouTube videos, I want you guys to know I'm so grateful for you guys for watching my videos and giving me the privilege to do this on a daily basis, to do something that I love. So thank you to those out there that watch my videos. It really means a lot to me. So let's get into today's meditation. which is, of course, from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. I actually read her, I had the other one over there, and that one was about interconnectedness, and this one I thought was a little bit more fitting. I just read like the beginning of it, and I haven't read the rest of the meditation because I read some other meditations this morning. It is rainy, it is nasty outside in Indianapolis. I got up, I did my prayers, did my meditations, took the dogs out in the rain, and then I went and got my hair cut. So, I need something to kind of uplift my spirit, so to speak. I'm somebody that really kind of struggles with this, you know, what do they call it? I don't know that I have seasonal affect disorder, but I do know that when it's gloomy outside and it's rainy and dark and all that kind of stuff, I just want to curl up in a ball in bed, and I don't really want to. Do you ever relate to that? You know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot for me to get real motivated. And then once I'm out of the house, I'm okay. Like, if I get out of the house and I get a coffee and stuff, I'm fine. But before that, I just want to, like, stay in bed all day long and, you know, binge watch a series on Netflix. So it's kind of hard for me when it's not, like, beautiful outside for me to get motivated. So this morning, the meditations that I read were very positive. They were from Linda Picone's The Book of Positive Quotations, and a Sark one, and some others that kind of like uplift my spirit. This one is a little bit more, you know, in-depth, but so I started reading it, and this is the one we're going to do today, The Language of Letting Go. Transformation through grief, November 1st. We're striving for acceptance and recovery, acceptance of ourselves, our past, other people, and our present circumstances. Acceptance brings peace, healing, and freedom, the freedom to take care of ourselves. Acceptance is not a one-step process. Before we achieve acceptance, we go toward it in stages of denial, anger, negotiating, and sadness. We call these stages the grief process. Grief can be frustrating. It can be confusing. We may vacillate between sadness and denial. Our behaviors may vacillate. Others may not understand us. We may neither understand ourselves nor our own behavior while we're grieving our losses. Then one day, things become clear. The fog lifts, and we see that we have been struggling to face and accept a particular reality. Don't worry. If we are taking steps to take care of ourselves, we will move through this process at exactly the right pace. Be understanding with yourself and others for the very human way we go through transition. Today, I will accept the way I go through change. I will accept the grief process and its stages as the way people accept loss and change. I think it's such a fantastic meditation. And you know, it's interesting when you talk about grief, because I think that we always want to associate grief with a physical loss, like somebody passing away or a pet passing away, which I truly think that a pet passing away is one of the hardest things to deal with ever, you know? And I've, you know, had so many of my friends that literally, like, they just cannot move on when that happens. I think that, you know, when we talk about loss and we talk about grief, one of the things that we have to remember is that can be, you know, in a relationship, like losing a relationship, breaking up, or a career, or a job, or a friendship, or whatever. It means that, like, just some area of your life has changed, and it no longer looks the way that it did. Divorce is a way, I think, you know, or breaking up is a huge way that we deal with grief. And I've often said this, like with I've often said this with like friends of mine that we are no longer friends, or like with relationships where we've broken up, that they are sometimes like 100 times more difficult because those people continue to go on and live their lives. This is one of the reasons why, like, I always, you know, suggest to friends of mine that, you know, if you're broken up with somebody, don't continue to follow them on Instagram or Facebook, you know, just detach. Because it's so hard to see that person continue to live their life, and you know you're not part of it. And it feels like death to us, I think. But then that person's continuing to live their life and move on and, you know, date new people, have new friendships, have new experiences, things like that. And I think that's really hard, you know? When I've seen that in the past from exes of mine on, you know, Facebook or wherever, and I've seen, oh, they're on this vacation or they're at this concert, you know, or whatever, like, it just stings my heart. So sometimes grief of the living is 100 times harder than grief where we actually have some closure and it's done and we know that the people aren't coming back, you know, I think. The other thing is, I think, like with my mother, like her passing, you know, for a long time, I don't know that I necessarily was in denial. Like, it wasn't like I thought I was gonna come to her house and she was gonna come running through the door. You know what I mean? Like, I never had that kind of denial. But I think that my denial of being able to have a life moving on without her, I really struggled with that, you know? And I remember that one day I was sitting in a meeting and somebody was talking about something to do with grief, and it just kind of hit me, you know, that being able to be present for my mother's passing, here's another piece of gratitude, when there are so many people, close friends of mine, you know, that have had family members that have, like, you know, taken their own lives or have been in tragic car accidents or things like that, where they didn't have the privilege to be there, you know, as their loved one passed away. Like, that's truly a privilege. It really is, you know? And I was thinking to myself, you know, my mother, she was there when I was born and I was there when she passed away. And those are two moments that we share that are, like, really probably the most profound moments in our lives, right? And, you know, it kind of put a whole spin on my grieving process then, because all of a sudden what I realized was that I was able to be part of her life during these very, the most profound, I was able to be there as she passed. Like, as sad as that is, as tragic as it is, what a privilege as well. And so it kind of changed my whole perspective on grieving, you know? And that I was able to be part of the living process, just like my mother was there when, you know, people passed away in her life. And, you know, that when my aunt and uncle passed away, I was able to be part of that process. And that was a privilege as well, you know? And so I think that we have to accept where we're at in any of the change process or the grieving process or whatever. I get so many questions from people about grieving. I really do. I get emails, I get comments, I get DMs, you know, constantly from people asking me, you know, like, how do you grieve? How do you move on? And I've shared this on here before, and I really love this quote that somebody, it's not even a quote, but somebody said this to me. I called them and I said, you know, everybody's telling me, they had lost a son, and I said to his mother, I said, everybody's telling me to move on, to move on, to move on. And she said, no, we don't ever move on. We move through, and we carry remnants of what we went through, or that person with us, you know? And I always remember that. And I think it's about accepting the fact that where you're at in life today, even going through change, is exactly where you're supposed to be, you know? And I've talked a lot about this in the last couple of days, that, you know, the idea of acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. I don't necessarily know why I'm going through shit in my life sometimes. I don't know, you know, why this happened or that happened or whatever. And sometimes I don't really need to know, honestly. Sometimes I just need to know that, you know, there's a plan out there that I don't necessarily need to understand. If you choose to believe that, that's what I choose to believe. Down the road, it will reveal itself, but right now, necessarily, I don't understand always what I'm going through. You know, change is hard. Change sucks. You know, it's like when you move, you know, like, I hate moving, which is why I've done it a few times in my life. But I hate moving. I hate boxing stuff up. I hate going through books and deciding, oh, I like this book, I don't like that book, or whatever. But isn't that a change? You know, the idea of change is like, okay, you know, you're gonna, on the other side, you're gonna turn out to be a better version of what you were before, right? Like, by what you've gone through. And I do think that change is good. I really do. I think, you know, for many years I was resistant to change. I was resistant to accepting the fact that life changes. And in fact, I was talking in my vlog not too long ago that sometimes I just wish things would stop and stand still. Like, time wouldn't move on. Like, my dogs would stay the same age, and it would just be, you know, us in this house. But at the same time, if I look back on my life, you know, the last time that I really felt that in my life, where I really didn't want anything to change, it's like, you know, that was standing in the hospital room with my mom. Okay, well, so my mom would still be here, and, you know, she'd be in an assisted living program, and she, you know, it would be horrible. But at the same time, I would never have met my husband. I would not have my dogs. I wouldn't have the life that I have now. And so I think, you know, with change comes good and bad. And I think the acceptance is the loss and the gain, you know. And I think that sometimes we have to take a look at the whole process, the journey. It isn't just about that one thing that we're going through, that one piece of loss. It's not about that. And I think for me, so often I've gotten focused just on the loss that I haven't looked at the journey. And I think the journey is important, you know? I mean, they say it all the time, the journey is the destination, you know? And I think that's what it's all about. You know, I think it's sometimes the road trip of life is more fun than the actual getting there or planning of it, you know? Anyway, I don't know. Change is hard for all of us. It really, really is. And I still struggle with it on a regular basis because sometimes I get comfortable and I like how that feels and I don't want things to change. And I'm just like, I want to stay here forever. But I know that change is inevitable and change is good. And I have never looked back on my life when I've gone through a major change in my life and thought to myself, well, I wish that wouldn't have happened. You know, like I've always learned something from it. I've always grown as a person and I'm thankful for that. So listen in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about all that. First of all, listen in the comment section below what you're grateful for just for today. Like every month, every day that we go forward, let's just list one thing that we're grateful for today. And let's just flood the comment sections with gratitude. I love you guys and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.